Hello everyone, this is Daughter of Yahweh. I'm back again with part 2. The first video is called Rituals and Demonic Manifestations Beware, Stay Away from Concerts. If you have not watched part 1, I advise you to watch part 1 so that you'll have a clearer understanding of part 2. I hope and pray that you guys are all doing well. Hallelujah. All praises to the Most High. Today is April 12th, 2022. It's just a little, past 1, I guess. So, I'm just going to start off with a quick recap of my previous video. I may leave the link in the description box below. Previously, I discussed demonic holidays and rituals that bring about demonic manifestations. And due to this information, Yahweh led me to warn you guys to stay away from concerts, both secular and Christian. Some churches should be avoided as well. You must be led by the Spirit of God. The goal of this video or this message is to bring to your attention that many entertainers, so-called Christian entertainers, pastors, teachers, preachers, and so-called prophets are not who you think they are. Many are like Travis Scott. Many are no different than the wicked celebrities that you see on TV. Many are witches and warlocks. They are summoning demon spirits, and the plan is for you to be their sacrifice. I warned in the previous video that many of these so-called Christian entertainers and ministers who say they call on God are not talking about the true and living God. They're talking about Satan. This video includes more warnings that Yahweh is sending. He is reaching for his sheep. Hear his voice and follow him. Ezekiel chapter 34, verses 10 through 11 says, starting with verse 10, "This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds and will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock so that the shepherds can no longer feed themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them." Verse 11, "For this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search for my sheep and look after them." The real children of God are going to be rescued from the sorcery, from the witchcraft, the homosexuality, and all the other unclean spirits that are being summoned by these so-called churches. So now I'm going to move forward with the rest of this message. My son had a dream in February of this year, 2022. And God led me to look into this dream so that I could explain this message. So, yes, he had this dream in February of this year, 2022. And I'm going to go ahead and share it with you. In this dream, he was playing basketball at a park behind a grocery store. It was Publix. While he was playing basketball on this basketball court, two celebrities, Machine Gun Kelly and Pete Davidson, showed up and started playing basketball with him. Then the court turned into a concert stage. The stage was very big. A massive audience appeared around the stage, And this turned out to be a huge concert. Then Machine Gun Kelly and Pete Davidson started singing on stage, "My God's Not Dead, He's Surely Alive." This is a very popular song. There's even a movie that was made after this song. And this song is sung by a group called the Newsboys. At the end of the dream, my son began to sing along with Machine Gun Kelly and Pete Davidson. So I noticed that there are two settings in this dream. So guys, that was the end of the dream. And there are two settings in this dream: the basketball court and the concert stage. I believe that it's time to stop going to basketball games, especially NBA, college level games. In the dream, Machine Gun Kelly showed up on the court. If you are going to go to these places, please pray, use discernment, hear the voice of God before you go. Do the same for concerts, basketball games, any sporting games, or anywhere where you're going to go out in public. Do not assume that you are safe at so-called Christian concerts. Machine Gun Kelly showed up there too. This is a serious warning. Please avoid basketball courts, games, and concerts, both secular and Christian. So let's talk about Machine Gun Kelly and Pete Davidson for a second. Both of these men, sorry, I went too far ahead. Both of these men display feminine behavior. Both men have nail polish lines, which would cause anyone with good sense to say that these men definitely have homosexual tendencies. Straight men don't wear nail polish. And when you research or when you look on Google and you see pictures of these guys together, there's a couple of pictures that are very inappropriate, and they are exhibiting behaviors that straight men just don't do, okay? So this video is not necessarily about exposing them, but they were in this dream, and they represent also what's going on in the church. Whatever's going on in the secular world is also happening in the church. So another thing that came to me while looking at this dream and looking at some of these pictures is that the duo, they also represent weaponized homosexuality. Homosexuality is being used as a weapon in the sports arenas and Hollywood. It is best to teach your children not to aspire to be in Hollywood and professional sports unless God opens the door for them to be there and they're also being protected and watched over. We should not be sending our children into the wolf's den, into Satan's lair. So the powers that be are assassinating manhood even as I speak, in the sports arena, in Hollywood, and in all areas of music entertainment, whether it be Christian, whether it be secular. So why send your children there, or why send yourselves there? Why continue to aspire to be a part of something that we all know by now is extremely satanic? So yes, most Christian artists and Christian pastors are not who you think they are. The reason why Machine Gun Kelly and Pete Davidson showed up in the dream singing "My God's Not Dead, He's Surely Alive" is because they are representing the actual artist or artist who sing that particular song, as well as other gospel Christian artists. Many so-called gospel Christian artists, pastors, ministers, etc., are secretly engaging in witchcraft and homosexuality. They are performing Christian music. They are offering worship unacceptable to God. They are preaching and ministering with unclean hearts, unclean minds, unclean spirits, and the Spirit of God is not there. We are not to join ourselves in unison with unclean people. Pretenders, people who are pretending to live holy, they are only present for the fame, the attention, personal fulfillment, selfish gain, and money. They do not have a heart for God nor God's people. Go back and read Romans chapter 1 again. Romans chapter 1 describes these people who come before you to minister. They do not acknowledge God in their personal lives, but will pretend to acknowledge God in front of you to get your attention, your support, and your money, and whatever else whatever else Satan wants to steal from you. So with that being said, the enemy has planned to come in to kill, to steal, and to destroy lives. The enemy wants to take lives. Not only should you avoid sports arenas and concerts, you should avoid certain churches. Now, Machine Gun Kelly, in a sense, may not always just represent what I'm showing you right now, a gun, because I'm using his name interchangeably. There's a representation of homosexuality, and then there's a physical gun here. So there's different types of weapons that the enemy may be trying to use, not just guns. Various weapons such as bombs or witchcraft or whatever can cause damage to God's children. So the Spirit of the Lord is not in every church. If the Spirit of the Lord is not there, then there is no protection from the enemy. Machine Gun Kelly can show up at any moment. Pray before you go to any church. If God has called you out, leave and don't look back. Be led by the Spirit and not by man's mouth. Because if you don't listen to God and you end up going to the wrong place, it could cost you your life. Pray everywhere you go. Pray before you go places. But for right now, this is a particular warning for basketball courts, games, concerts, and churches. Please pray about this message and take personal instruction from God about these things. And I would just like to add that just because, let's say sometimes you go places and there's metal detectors, there's security, that doesn't mean that you're safe, because you don't know when security is going to decide to allow something sinister to happen. Where I live recently, something happened in a courthouse that I've gone to several times. When you walk in, there are metal detectors and they make you walk through the metal detectors and they check for weapons, but somehow a woman got through with a weapon and she attacked someone. And I'm just bringing this up to say, just because there's metal detectors and just because there's security, that does not mean that you are safe. So, moving on. Do not listen to the false prophets and the false teachers who tell you that you must be in a church. You should know for yourself where you should be. You have to hear God on that. No one person should be telling you where you're supposed to be, unless that person heard directly from God. But we have some people who are false teachers and false prophets. And Alan Parr comes to mind concerning this topic. He made a video stating that a Christian should never leave the church. Certain ministers are trying to keep people within brick and mortar ministries for sinister reasons. Beware of false prophets. Yahweh is leading many of you out of these buildings because they will fall under judgment. Yahweh led Lot and his family out of Sodom and Gomorrah. He's doing the same thing today because many of these so-called churches have become Sodom and Gomorrah. Yahweh did not say worship him in filth, but worship him in spirit and in truth. Yes, God wants us to fellowship. You can gather at your home, at the park. You can get creative and think of different places to gather. It does not have to be under an organization. Okay? God is there in the midst of two or three gathered in his name. So it does not have to be in a church building unless God leads you there. If God leads you there, then that's where you go. Judgment is upon the church, just like judgment is upon America. God has lifted his hand of protection. And when the enemy comes in like a flood, Yahweh does not want his true children, his good children, his obedient children to be there. Some teachers, artists, preachers, etc., are trying to fill as many seats as possible for very sinister reasons. Every person who has a position in the so-called church is not working for God. Some are working for Satan. I hope you guys are catching everything that's being relayed to you. To sum up everything and to make this clear, this is a warning. Ungodly celebrations and rituals produce demonic manifestations that can result in loss of life, losing your soul to Satan, various kinds of destructions, sicknesses, illnesses, etc. Many of your most famous top leaders in Christian industry and YouTube are people who participate in demonic celebrations and rituals. Many of them are witches and warlocks. The enemy has plans in place to use the most talented and the most persuasive so-called Christians to lure you into disobedience, death, and destruction. The enemy is using the secular world in the same manner. You have been warned about basketball courts, but please pray before you go to any sports arena. Avoid concerts and run away from some of these wicked witchcraft and homosexual churches. Do not allow yourselves to be a sacrifice for the devil, but be a sacrifice of praise for our God. This is the end of my message. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. God bless you all. Have a good night.